1 Schism, Europe before the Great War. Writing. 100 years ago, Europe looked very different from the Europe we know today. There were fewer independent countries, but several enormous empires controlled vast territories. Germany was larger and more powerful. Russia stretched far into Europe. Poland, Finland, and the Baltic states had not yet become independent nations. Austria and Hungary were united under one empire known as Austria-Hungary. However, many different national groups lived inside it, and not all of them were happy under imperial rule. The Ottoman Empire still existed, although it was becoming weaker and slowly falling apart. Italy had only recently become a united kingdom and wanted to prove that it could become one of Europe's major powers. France had never forgotten its humiliating defeat by Germany 40 years earlier. Many French leaders wanted revenge and hoped to regain their lost influence. Europe was filled with powerful countries competing against one another. Old rivalries grew stronger, military alliances were formed, and every major nation began building larger armies. Factories produced new weapons. Governments trained millions of soldiers. Across the continent, many people believed that a massive war would eventually begin. The only question was when. All the great powers needed was a reason to start fighting. That reason arrived much sooner than anyone expected. In 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary and his wife traveled to Sarajevo, a city in a region where many Serbian people lived. Some Serbian nationalists strongly opposed Austria-Hungary's control over the area and were angry about the Archduke's visit. As the Archduke's car moved through the streets, one of the attackers threw a bomb toward the vehicle. Fortunately for Franz Ferdinand, the bomb missed his car. However, several officers were injured in the explosion. After the attack, people warned the Archduke that he should leave Sarajevo immediately. But instead of escaping, he decided to visit the wounded officers in the hospital. That decision would change history. While driving through the city, the Archduke's driver took a wrong turn. By an extraordinary coincidence, the car stopped directly in front of one of the assassins. The attacker realized that he had been given another opportunity. He quickly pulled out his pistol and fired. Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife were both killed. Their assassination shocked Austria-Hungary. The empire was furious and believed that Serbia had played a role in the attack. Austria-Hungary sent Serbia a strict ultimatum containing demands that were extremely difficult to accept. One of those demands would have allowed Austrian officials to operate inside Serbia and take part in the investigation. Serbia accepted many of the demands but refused to give Austria-Hungary complete control inside its country. The Serbian government believed that accepting everything would threaten its independence and sovereignty. Austria-Hungary was not satisfied. On July 28, 1914, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. What began as a conflict between two countries quickly became much larger. Russia supported Serbia because of their close Slavic connections. Russia began mobilizing its army and prepared to defend Serbia. Germany supported its ally, Austria-Hungary. France supported Russia. Within only a few days, Europe's major powers were being pulled into war. The conflict seemed to explode suddenly, but the truth was different. For years, Europe had been preparing for a great war. Countries had built powerful armies, created military alliances, and developed plans for a future conflict. The assassination in Sarajevo was not the only cause of the war. It was the spark that ignited years of rivalry, fear, competition, and political tension. And Germany was one of the countries most prepared for what came next. Germany had developed a military strategy known as the Schlieffen Plan. The plan was based on a simple idea. Russia was enormous, and German leaders believed that it would take Russia a long time to mobilize its army. Germany planned to defeat France quickly before Russia was fully ready. After defeating France, Germany would move its armies east and fight Russia. The plan appeared fast and powerful on paper. But war rarely follows a perfect plan. And soon, Germany would discover that many things could go wrong. Germany believed that France could be defeated quickly. However, the German commanders soon faced a serious problem. France had prepared strong defensive positions along its border with Germany. Large fortresses protected important areas, making a direct German attack difficult and dangerous. German leaders needed another route. They decided to move their army through Belgium. Belgium was a neutral country and had not joined either side of the conflict. Its government demanded that Germany respect its neutrality. But Germany believed that passing through Belgium was the fastest way to avoid the French fortresses and surround the French army. In August 1914, German troops crossed into Belgium. Germany expected the Belgian army to surrender quickly. Instead, Belgium fought back. Belgian soldiers resisted much more strongly than Germany had expected. Their resistance slowed the German advance and gave France valuable time to prepare its defenses. Germany's invasion of Belgium also brought another powerful country into the war. Many years earlier, Britain had promised to protect Belgium's neutrality. When Germany invaded, Britain declared war on Germany. Now, almost every major European power was involved. On one side were the Central Powers, led by Germany and Austria-Hungary. On the other side were the Entente powers, including France, Russia, Serbia, Montenegro, Britain, and Belgium. The war was growing larger every day. Meanwhile, Germany received another unexpected surprise. Russian forces mobilized much faster than German leaders had predicted. Germany had believed that Russia would need a long time to prepare its enormous army. But Russian troops moved toward Germany sooner than expected. Germany asked Austria-Hungary to help stop the Russian advance. Austria-Hungary agreed, but its army faced serious difficulties. The empire was made up of many different national groups. Soldiers spoke different languages and did not always understand their commanders. Some groups also felt little loyalty to the empire and did not want to fight in the war. Because of these problems, Austria-Hungary struggled to fight effectively. It even had difficulty defeating Serbia, the smaller country against which the war had originally begun. Germany was forced to send some troops away from the Western Front to support its ally. This weakened the German advance toward France. Even so, German forces continued moving closer to Paris. French commanders became deeply worried. They believed that if Paris fell, France might lose the war. The French army had been retreating, but the commanders decided that they could not continue moving backward. They ordered their soldiers to stop retreating and prepare for a major battle. In September 1914, German and French forces fought near the Marne River. The battle became one of the most important moments of the early war. The German army was defeated and forced to retreat. Germany's plan to capture Paris quickly had failed. After retreating, German forces moved north toward the coast of France. They hoped to capture important coastal cities and gain a stronger position. The Entente armies followed and tried to stop them. Both sides continued moving north, attempting to outflank each other. But neither side could achieve a decisive victory. Germany had planned to defeat France quickly and then turn east to fight Russia. Instead, Germany was already fighting a difficult war on two fronts. The Schlieffen Plan had failed. German leaders realized that a quick victory was no longer possible. They needed a new strategy. The new plan was simple. Dig in. German soldiers began digging deep defensive trenches. Their enemies did the same. Soon, an enormous network of trenches stretched from the North Sea all the way to the Swiss border. 3. Schism, Life in the Trenches, and the Eastern Front. Writing. The trenches quickly became the symbol of the First World War. At first, many soldiers believed that the war would end within a few months. They expected a fast victory and hoped to return home soon. But the war did not end. The trenches grew longer, deeper, and more heavily defended. Soon, millions of soldiers were living and fighting inside them. Life there was terrible. The ground was often covered in thick mud. Heavy rain filled the trenches with water, and soldiers sometimes stood in cold, wet conditions for days. Diseases spread quickly. Rats lived everywhere. They fed on leftover food and the bodies of dead soldiers. Some became unusually large because there was so much food available to them. Soldiers also faced constant danger from enemy artillery. At any moment, powerful shells could explode nearby. The sound of artillery fire continued day and night, leaving many soldiers exhausted and terrified. Some soldiers lost their sight or suffered serious injuries because of explosions. Others became sick because of dirty water, poor food, cold weather, and terrible living conditions. But disease was not the only danger. Military commanders often ordered soldiers to leave their trenches and attack enemy positions. The soldiers had to run across open land while enemy machine guns fired at them. This area between the opposing trenches became known as no man's land. Many attacks ended in disaster. Thousands of soldiers could be killed or wounded during a single assault, sometimes only to gain a small piece of land. After weeks or even months of fighting, the front line might move only a few meters. Still, both sides continued using the same strategy. The Western Front became a long and deadly war of attrition. Meanwhile, the war in Eastern Europe was very different. The Eastern Front was much larger than the Western Front. The armies had more space to move, and the front lines changed constantly. Russia fought against Germany and Austria-Hungary across enormous areas. In the north, Germany defeated Russian forces in a major battle. Russia was forced to retreat to safer positions. In the south, however, Russian troops moved deep into Austrian territory and gained a stronger position. Russia had a huge army, but its enormous size created serious problems. The country struggled to provide enough food, weapons, ammunition, and equipment for millions of soldiers. Some Russian units did not have enough rifles. In certain cases, soldiers had to wait for weapons or share limited supplies. Military equipment often arrived late. The soldiers were forced to fight under difficult conditions while facing powerful German and Austrian armies. Unlike the Western Front, where trench lines barely moved, the Eastern Front remained mobile and unpredictable. Entire regions could be captured or lost within only a few weeks. In 1915, Germany and Austria-Hungary launched a massive counterattack. Their armies pushed Russian forces backward across hundreds of kilometers. This enormous withdrawal became known as the Great Retreat. Russian leaders described it as a strategic withdrawal. But in reality, the army had suffered heavy losses and was being forced away from many important territories. Despite the retreat, Russia did not leave the war. Its soldiers were exhausted. Its army lacked supplies. Many units had suffered serious losses. But Russia continued fighting. As the war grew longer, more countries began joining the conflict. The First World War was no longer only a European war. It was becoming a global conflict. And one of the first major countries to enter the war was Japan.